Good morning here on the East Coast and all across America, and good afternoon, good evening to those who are joining around the world. You have managed to join us for advanced automation for SAP Business Objects. We're excited today because this is such a very cool topic, very poignant for today's IT world. Is, how can we get past just the initial phases of automating a task here and there and creating advanced automation around business objects. I'm joined today by Patrick Perrier. He's our EMEA Director of Analytics, COE, and has over 20 plus years around business objects, so he's bringing a ton of knowledge to help us understand and deliver on this automation.
Yes, thank you for having me today, Nathan. Nice to be here indeed. And with me, Nathan Crook, our Senior Director in America of the sales team, based out of Atlanta, with quite a few years. We can see the gray beard here, 13 years of business objects. So yeah, nice to be with you today.
Indeed. I like to think I earned every single one of those gray hairs. Before we begin, per usual, please submit questions anytime. You'll notice that if you're joining us, the GoToWebinar panel there on the right-hand side, there's a little orange arrow that'll make it go back and forth to open up the screen to see full screen or open up the panel. If you're looking at the panel, there's a section called questions that you can click on, and please feel free to type in your questions at any point in time. We'll do our best to answer those as we go, but in the interest of time and trying to make sure we hit our time, we may hold until the end to really dig into some deep ones. Of course, the recording will be made available as we wrap up here. You'll get an email with that, and in addition, there's a survey. We like to be in a constant improvement cycle here and want to make sure that we're doing our best to get better. So help us complete. There's a very quick survey. It takes seconds, so please take a minute, let us know how we're doing, how we can get better. All right, so automation part one. So a lot of you may remember and may even have attended the webinar we did back on November 13th, the end of last year, automating business objects platform maintenance. So, if you're looking for just automating a task to help, take away repetitive things, the basic course is already laid out there, as well as this, how automation enhances management of business objects. We released this ebook here on the right a couple of weeks ago, and you can find it attached at the bottom in the handout section on the GoToWebinar control panel.
Yeah, that's right. And just to expand on this, indeed, what we started to do last year is introduce our solutions in the context of maintenance, and we started basic. We started with platform maintenance, with technical, solutions for the IT guys out there. And then we expanded a bit more recently, like Nathan said, with this ebook, where we not only answered technical questions with solutions, but started to speak to the business. And today we want to expand on that.
Absolutely. So we've recently introduced a couple of customer success stories out on our blog. So if you want to dig in to see how customers are actually digging into automation, finding that reduction of cost, finding that reducing the total cost of ownership of business objects as a whole, reducing or creating efficiency around their teams, all those kinds of good, healthy buzzwords in the IT world. This is in action. So for instance, Lockheed Martin, top left-hand corner, I was actually presenting with Bonnie, who is one of the BI managers at Lockheed, recently at the analytics conference in Dallas earlier this spring. And one of the scenarios where they've introduced automation was really around scheduling. So they had a scenario where a gentleman was trying to put together manually scheduling thousands of reports that would take all of the part numbers for creating a missile, for instance, because this is missiles and fire control, but just the overall PLU set that make up one of their full products. And it took him over 25 hours to manually put this report schedule together. And of course, leveraging 360, we actually took that down to about 38 minutes, which is essentially creating a destination list and then processing the bursting for 1,000+ reports at 1.385 seconds per report, if you want to get very specific. So it's scenarios like this that just make people's lives easier. And that's what we want to dig in today. So part two, where are we going? You know, to me, this is, it's mirroring, of course, if you guys are you're in the SAP ecosystem, you've heard things like design thinking, you've heard the crawl, walk, run methodology. And so the reality is that leveraging software to really get the value is always in that method, right? We hit the low hanging fruit and then we start maturing as a, you know, solution leveraging in the organization. And so that's where we want to go today, is how can we get to the advanced stuff? How can we get past simply automating one or two things to creating an orchestrated use of solutions to cut costs, reduce the total cost of ownership of business objects, help maintain a healthy landscape, support things like governance, risk mitigation, compliance, facilitate easier upgrades and migrations, be able to keep technically up with the new exciting things that are coming out in business objects, which, by the way, if you haven't looked at a roadmap lately, I highly recommend. We've got a webinar next week that we'll talk about later with SAP, talking about some new cool things you can do in web intelligence. So facilitating upgrades, making it easier, reducing the risk, assuring quality, all those good buzzwords here. This is where we're going. This is what we want to do with our time today.
And absolutely, the last two bullet points, you know, I'm based here in the UK. A lot of my customers are asking me the sort of questions of, listen, you know, with my Active Directory, with my databases, with my whichever other system I have these rules where I, you know, do backups a certain ways, or I manage my accounts and service accounts and passwords as other ways. How can I do the same, you know, standardize the processes I have elsewhere in IT? How can I do this with business objects to not have, you know, 50 rules because I have 50 different software? So again, these not only automation, but advanced automations, as we'll explain on the next slides, will definitely help with this and increase your productivity as well. So very two key points of advanced automations.
Right. So this gets down to where we start differentiating between automation and orchestration. So orchestration, we feel, and really standard technically speaking, is more in the advanced area, right? So automation is taking a single task and running it on its own so that, you know, you don't have to think about running your backup every day. It runs and backs up the system. Orchestration is where you're automating a lot of those single tasks, but they comprise a workflow where numerous technical tasks need to leverage another task in order to complete a cycle. So this, it takes advantage of executing a larger workflow, a larger process where you can comprise multiple tasks and involve multiple systems. So the goal truly is to streamline, optimize frequent repeatable tasks and ensure that you are able to rely on accurate speedier maintenance for platform, be able to create tasks that can automate many different scenarios. And so we've got 4 pretty clear, pretty pervasive scenarios that we're going to dig into today that I'm excited to get to. So, Patrick, any comments?
Yeah,
Cole.
no. Before I dig in with these 4 scenarios, which well, each have a technical demos and all that, we'd like to, if you've been here before, we'd like to know more about you and to see how you work, and what's our common, I guess, in the industry. So a quick question for you: do you guys do automation and orchestration in your workplace? And I assume, and I'm looking at the numbers here coming up, and thank you for voting, that of course people do have this common practice, but maybe or maybe not with business objects. So it's just wait for a few more seconds.
Good response rate here too, and I think this is one of those areas where that's the idea behind software. You're wanting to create efficiencies. You're wanting to create, help the people get their jobs done faster, better, so they can focus on higher quality, higher value tasks. And so it looks like we've got some work to do. Not yet, but we aspire to make it a common practice, 43%. So you've come to the right area. That's great.
And yeah, pleased to see that 0% are, well, kind of not interested. So you may not be doing it now, but this is something you want to aspire to, and I guess well, that might be one of the reasons why you're here today. So happy to
have you here.
Yeah, happy to have you here. All right then. Okay, so we said we had 4 scenarios. Plan is to start simple. Very simple, yeah. So some of you, I assume, are business objects administrators. And just before I carry on, do not hesitate, as I go into the scenarios, to ask any questions. Yeah, I'll try to answer them as we go or later, like we said. So, okay, so yeah, some of you will be administrators. You want to have, you want to maintain your business objects as well as you can. The problem with this is that business objects has dependencies. Obviously, business object sits on the server. It requires a file store, which for some of you will not be local on the server, but will be on a network share somewhere. It needs databases for the system and the audit. It will be out there. There's reporting databases, there's Active Directory connectivity, and so on and so on and so on. So business objects needs a lot of things. So in terms of a simple orchestration, which I'm describing with this black and white logo here at the top, we're saying, okay, want to do business objects maintenance, but first I need other things from a number of other systems to be completed before I can get on with it. So you wait for your VM and backups and other things like that, and you say, right, okay, so now all my architecture, my dependencies are sorted. Now I can dig into business objects to do my maintenance. Now, when we talk about automation would be picking one of these things here in the second bullet point, one by one. So maybe you do cleanup, maybe you do archiving, maybe you want to disable users and so on as individual automated tasks. But in terms of orchestration is how to add this in an existing workflow. So those of you doing automation, you will have already these rules of automating these different things like server, file server, databases, and so on. But now you can add business objects as part as this orchestration workflow, which maybe is called your nightly, IT maintenance or whatever it is. So what I'll do is I will show you in 360 how we can help you with this. So I will just log on to my web interface. Now, what we have done to help you support different kind of orchestration is by having the possibility of running tasks, obviously. Now, when we create a task in 360, we can give them a couple of frequency. We can say, I want to run it once. You may say, I want to run at 4 a.m. I want to run based on a calendar. Now, the problem with these, and this is where orchestration is important, is you don't want to start maintenance on your BusinessObjects platform, which may require to disable users or delete reports or archive instances or that sort of things. If older things are not done yet, you know, the same way you wouldn't want to run a report until your ETL is not done, you don't want to delete users until maybe backups are done. Yeah. So this is why instead of saying run at 4 a.m., where 4 a.m. may not be right, we give you the ability to run not only on time, to run on events, but to run here using an external scheduler. So again, those of you a bit more advanced in this topic will know of Control M, will know of Jenkins, for instance. These are different technology helping you to do this workflow management or orchestration. So what I have done here is I have created already, and I'll do one from scratch to show you. I have created a number of external tasks to do number of things. The same ones here I've demonstrated in my first scenario. So, you know, on a nightly basis, I want to tag the documents which I want to pseudo archive. Pseudo archiving for us is you leave the document in BusinessObjects, but nobody can see it. So people think it's kind of gone, but you can recover it very easily. So you tag it and then you hide it. You know, so one task needed to happen before the other. And then you may want to clean personal documents following some rules. So again, as part of your maintenance, you can say, right, I want to clean personal documents of only my training users. No problem. You know, you say, I want this. It's an external parameter. It turns out that my process is, I want to remove objects, and you carry on and you carry on. And then you can clean your inboxes following similar rules. You want to archive instances, but these instances, you want to archive them to a network share if they're older than 365 days. Again, that's not a problem. You just, you know, go ahead, configure your task, and you give them, you know, all the different parameters. But the point is, you run these individual tasks as part of a bigger, you know, a bigger scenario. So I'll create one for you here to show you in action. Let's say I want to disable, so that's my daily task, and I want to disable inactive users, and I want to say if users are inactive for more than 90 days, as an example. Once again, I could say run that at any time, but in this case, we'll just do an external scheduling. I'll talk about external parameters a bit later. I want to deal with users here, and I'll say, okay, well, I want to disable. I could delete, but in this case, I want to disable if users have not logged on for more than 90 days. You may want to purge or not purge, and you know, there's extra options. Of course, we can give you some email notifications of success and failure. But at the end of the day, here we go. I have my task, and here we go. These are the URLs you would use to trigger the running of this job here. And then it's now part of my list, which is here we go. Disable inactive users. Okay, so let me go back on my slides here. So simple scenario of having BusinessObjects tasks added to a bigger workflow of a global IT maintenance.
Start them easy, Patrick. Now we get into some good stuff.
Right. I'm still going fairly simple with the second one, but yes, now I'm moving away from IT here, or partly from IT. you will have people in your in organization asking you for information. Yeah, I want to know what's my license utilization. I want to know what's being used. Oh, maybe we need to do some cross-charging internally, or maybe charge customers using the data you host for them on your platform. Account recertification in terms of regulations, perhaps. You want to know which BuzzJ, Webi or universes or so on content using content which you have flagged as sensitive or personal. The developers, they may want to know stuff about impact analysis. And again, all these things, of course, people could do it as a self-service, but it's not optimizing their time. These people, they will have a set of questions with a set of criterias, rather than then log in on and check the same thing again and filtering parameters. Well, maybe you just want to offer that information already to them. And again, I'll expand on that. As for IT, maybe you want to be a bit proactive about stuff. So maybe you want to monitor the services coming out of BusinessObjects, monitor the server, notify in case of a problem, but more importantly, take action. So, we give you the possibility of taking good actions, and I'll do a demonstration in a minute, and how to be proactive thanks to your metadata and receive alerts. So now in this case, we kind of turn things around. 360 is the guy taking care of your orchestration, and the different elements are your platform, your server, notifications by email, take actions by running scripts or programs, or take actions by running other workflow, which could be part of other orchestration. So again, this is how to create bigger workflow. So let me show you a couple of examples here. So the first bit is answering questions. So all of these people you might have in your organization saying things like, right, I want to know what's happening in terms of utilization. Yeah. So not here, but here, activity. So I want to know the documents which are used. This could be important for the chargeback. You want to know which users are doing activity. This could be important again for your chargeback. You want to know if the users are using their licenses or not. You want to know if you're reaching peak of connections for whatever reason, maybe for relicensing purposes, maybe for sizing, again for your chargeback. We have lots of information here. Users who cannot log on because maybe you gave them concurrent licenses and you're running out of sessions. You want to do chargeback based on different groups. So here we go. So different guys in finance, well, they are using the platform a lot less than the pre-sales. Well, maybe you want to cross-charge things differently. So again, by using 360, reusing the metadata we have access to from all over the platform, you can go and answer all of these questions here that people may have.
Right. This is one of my favorite parts, honestly, about when we're talking with clients, when we're talking with people who are thinking about 360, or even once we've got they're bought in, they're looking to leverage 360. One of the key pieces that I want them to understand is that if you think of 360 and the capabilities that you can put out into work, if you only think of that as an administrative tool, you're definitely underselling the capabilities, the audience that you can get to, because a lot of this stuff is relevant to executives in your landscape, or even your customers in a lot of ways, like you said, for costing, etc.
Absolutely. I mean, if I expand to the executive, they will want to know, like I said before, the content which have personal data or sensitive data. Yes. So once again, here's an example. With this one here, I can say that this document has data which I have tagged with sensitive data, and then they get highlighted. So I can even say, and all of these things you can again automate giving the answers. You can say, I want to automatically know when new reports have been created with sensitive data. That's the bit of automation here. It's not just about creating documents. I want to know when I'm reaching my peak of licenses. So you automate that process of being alerted. So that's what we're trying to do here. Now, in terms of monitoring the platform, again, if you wanted to have that as part of a workflow for keeping an eye on your platform or your platforms, you could go in 360 as an example. You could create a watch. And this watch here, I can do a number of things, and I invite you to have a look at our previous webinars on monitoring. But we have the ability of orchestrating the action and the reaction. So this is it, right? I'll give you a real example of one of my customer, a retail customer here in the UK. These guys, I can just go back here. These guys, and for those of you with in the retail industry, maybe on this webinar, will know that your users come at different peak. Very busy for Easter, Christmas, and Mother's Day, but maybe there's not much happening mid-June. Yeah. So I have this customer who do not want to have 5 servers running in a very busy cluster when they're not at peak time. So what they do is monitor here the active sessions. They say, right, I want to monitor my sessions, and I'll just say busy sessions, yeah, any name, and I can say, you know what, my 2 servers clustered are sized to handle 80 sessions. If I have greater than 80 sessions, I want first of all to be notified, probably by email, hey, you're reaching your 80 sessions. But more importantly, and this is where it's really advanced with 360, you can say, I want to take actions. And this is the part which could be part of a workflow, part again of this orchestration. Maybe you need to run an executable. Maybe you need to call a URL, which would be part of your bigger orchestration to say, okay, I reach 80. I now need to start 2 more VMs. Well, maybe you start your VMs. You need to make sure that your databases are ready. You need to make sure that you have enough resources on your VM servers, or maybe on Amazon Web Services, you need to handle other things. So again, how to have monitoring trigger orchestration. So kind of reversing the thing here. So that's what is very powerful with 360, the ability to not only be informed, but proactively orchestrating answers automatically. So that is kind of all I wanted to say about this example. Proactive metadata alert, I think that's quite nice. We have a lot of information for our server guys. So, those guys with more than 1 server in a cluster, I'm sure you have faced the problem before of having services on different nodes configured different ways for whatever reason. Here we go. We can inform you of your server properties. And again, schedule to receive an alert only when the data is not what you expect. Same thing about your scheduling analysis. Maybe you want to find out when documents go to some specific destinations. You want to know what's going on with the volume to keep an eye on the disk space, that sort of thing. So again, that was the second scenario. Try to keep things simple. Scenario number 3. This one I really like, because that is something that was asked a couple of weeks ago over here. This company had this IT-wide, not goal, but IT-wide security target, I guess, or to have service accounts to have a different password every 30 days. So you know how it is. You create an account today, you set a password, and then you never want to change the password ever again because, well, first of all, it would be a pain to go in all these different places to change the password manually. But worse, if you didn't keep track of where you use that password, you might just forget one and have some problems. So what companies would like to do is obviously orchestrate that process. So people don't have to type password one by one manually. These passwords are very long digits and different characters and all that. So that would be time consuming, prone to mistakes. And again, by orchestrating all this, then you're not forgetting any places. There's no human interaction. With 360, it will be very simple to do that. So your process starts outside of business objects. You have your orchestration going inside your database, running some algorithm or scripts or whatever it is. All right, change these passwords. Now that's done. These accounts have a new password. Problem is business objects doesn't work anymore. So with 360, and I'll show you how, you take 360 and you say, right, once this password have changed, these passwords now need to be automatically replaced in my universe connections. Something you'd have to open Universe Designer and change one by one, which will be, again, very time consuming and a risk of mistakes. So have 360 change these passwords for you. But now, do you want to, how can you be 100% sure that that the entire process went well, that nothing failed? Well, again, with 360, we can take care of the regression testing all of these universe connections for you. And how we do this, once again, go back in 360. And in this case, I will go to my connections. And let's say that my process is my monthly process is to change my passwords for my eFashion connection. Yes. So as a one-off, as part of setting up my orchestration, I'll go here and I'll generate a file. And this file here will have my universe connections. So 3 connections on my screen. So in my Excel spreadsheet, I have these 3 connections right here. And you'll see that there's a field somewhere here, password. Now, it would be very simple for any orchestration software out there to go in that file here, which can be a CSV as well, and say, well, this is my new password. Yeah. XYZ and blah. Yeah. So it'll be very simple to have an external orchestration software to go and write precisely in that column in those rows. And in 360, back to creating automated tasks. Yeah, I'll create a new task. My task is monthly update connection passwords. Once again, I want to have that as an external task. I want to do this only when my passwords have been updated by my other resources. And in this case, I want to do some connection import. And the way you would automate this is by saving that spreadsheet, that source on a network share. Yeah, network share password.xlsx, for instance. Okay, here we go. And now, just like I've done before, I have this thing available for an external scheduler, which will take the information from that spreadsheet and automatically update these passwords.
That's so cool.
Final step is your regression testing. No problem. It's a different interface, but here we go. We have here our schedule bind, schedule regression testing. We have here examples I created earlier. I want to automate the regression testing here. That's not a problem. If I go to my job itself, you can see that the frequency can be an external job as well. And you see it right here. It is an external scheduled task. All I have to do is, I'll go here. Actually, I'll even do this one live. I think we're soon running out of time, but we're almost done. See, this is an example here. I call it manually, but this is what you would call using your orchestration software. This runs for not long at all, about 13 seconds. It's obviously I've done a small job for this one here. So if you had 10 universe connections, make sure you have 10 reports using at least one universe with these universe connections. You'd prove the point that the database connectivity is not broken. Okay, it's completed. And now if I go to my email, because I had set up an email notification for this one, here we go. I get the email, and then I get the email where you have differences or not. You have attachments. You can save things to network share. So once again, your orchestration software could monitor these outputs, locate specific rows, and tell you, well, it worked or it didn't, and alert people if appropriate. All right, final one. This one will be quick. This is again all these scenarios I've explained today. They're stuff I have worked with customers over here. I have this client. What they do sometimes, and I'm sure some of you will identify themselves with this. Instead of updating an existing universal BW queries, they actually make a copy of that object, and then they modify that copy, and that copy will become the live new source. Now, the problem is you need developers to update or to make a copy, update that object. Then the Webi reports needs to be repointed to that new query or new universe. You want to do the regression testing. You want to promote it to say test or pre-prod or prod at some point. Then you need to repoint those Webi again. You need to do more regression testing, and all that is really time-consuming, and yeah, lots of mistakes possible. So in terms of orchestration, oh sorry, yeah, Nathan.
No, I'm just looking through this workflow. You know, some of our customers have version control implemented. Could you run this type of scenario with verse as well?
Yeah, actually, yes. So this one here, this scenario was assuming, you know, you don't need authorization between, I guess, step 1 and step 2. But for those of you who wants to go through version control or segregation of duties between what developers can do and what promoters can do, yeah, part of 360, we have a way to offer these managers to approve and reject changes. So that would be the only human interaction, but the rest to automatically promote between environment and do the regression testing and the repointing as well. All of it could be automated. So you could automate bullet point number 1 or step number 1. Then you have a manual person to approve or reject. Then you can automate, if successful, number 2 as well. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's been a topic heavy on people's minds. So that's cool.
And this one here, yeah, I've done it in the UK. And what we've done, that's for a customer in the US. This customer in the US wanted to say, right, I want to repoint my Webi. Well, that's simple. We have a job for this. I want to do regression testing. I've demonstrated that. But what they wanted is to be able to, in quite an advanced way, promote only specific tagged objects between dev and test following change control, which they handle in Jira. So what we've done for them, we have actually improved 360. We gave the ability in a backup task, not in a backup task, what I'm talking about, in a promotion task, so promoting between environments, to say, when I create a job and I want to promote between source and destination, again, I'll just, I'm doing this quickly. I want to filter on the object description. So adding a flag to the description of the object. For them, it was a Jira 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, that was the change management version they were at. And because we can use external parameters, we can use external parameters with even further options. For them, they have only one single job. All they have to do is put what the name of that Jira ID is in the URL, and that one job will take care of promoting whatever needs to be promoted on that day. So again, very powerful automation. And again, we're talking minimum amount of work. In this case, only one single task to do all this. Here we go. I spoke a lot. I hope that was useful.
Totally. We've got a couple of questions, and while we answer those, we can go ahead and, yeah, there you go. How can we help? You know, that's one of the reasons why, you know, our customers come to us, because we not only provide the solutions to you know, make these types of orchestrations happen, make the type of capabilities you're looking for happen, but also we'll help you. You know, we'll help you as a part of working with us. So, you know, if there's anything we can do to support, please let us know. So one of the questions was around metadata reports being scheduled for delivery to a customer. In order to, you know, send some of those, you know, like a dashboard type report to an executive or to end users who are needing to make decisions based on business objects type data. He was wondering how that workflow works.
Okay, so yeah, so thank you, Larry, for that question. Nathan, we're looking at the first question here.
Yeah, the first and the second really are both connected. So, you know, Larry, one of the, I'll actually, I provided an answer in the first one in line, but the second one, he was looking for an example of how that worked. You know, Larry, one of the things you're looking at is CAST. This would be a workflow for CAST. So our scheduling and bursting solution would be a very easy way to automate sending out any type of 360 reports to executives.
Absolutely. Okay, so if we take the example here of chargeback, it's a very simple example, but we could expand it very easily. Now, if you need to send that one report to a set list of people, well, yes, absolutely. Go with BusinessObjects. It's just a normal Webi report. You schedule it, and maybe you want to send it as a, I don't know, as a PDF or as an Excel spreadsheet. Here we go, and then you send it to destinations and by email. Now, to go back to what Nathan just said earlier, one customer we're working with in I forgot now. I think it's in Switzerland. It's yeah, it's a bank. The bank, it's an international bank. There are branches all over the place, and the chargeback is done by each bank, each branch in each country. So what they're doing, they're using some advanced report bursting. So each branch will receive a set of information about their utilization, their content adoption, the license which have been used, the size, disk size being used, size of queries, so they can estimate database utilization, and all of these things. Each branch receive their own little, well, their own little version of those answers, and they use indeed 360 CAST to do this. Not that you can't do basic report bursting in Webi, of course you can, but in their case, they had a lot of different criteria. They wanted to be very flexible as to how they were managing things. So yeah, they do that report bursting in CAST, which is quite, that was quite a nice little scenario, this one.
Yeah, for sure. And it makes it easy to manage. And you can create a SQL database or run it on based on a, you know, a crystal report that's got your destination list, or you can run it with a Excel spreadsheet. There's, you know, it gives you a lot of different flexible ways, like Patrick was alluding to manage and maintain, you know, over time this type of reporting.
So we had another. So,
oh,
sorry, Nathan, I'll just answer the next one. So the next one is, if the promotion workflow I have explained would work between a CMS and a beer file or vice versa. So yeah, indeed. So I'll show you. So I have a CMS here. I want to save it. Let's call it to a beer file. I don't know. Yeah, here we go. Hopefully I have access to that here. But the point is, yeah, I'll go external. Okay. Oh, actually, because I don't want to do a promotion of my entire platform, I'll show you a new feature for those existing customers who you might not be aware of. So let's say that part of my orchestration is I want to let's say it's that report or that folder is part of the things I need to add as part of my orchestration. What I can do now is right click, I add that to my selection. My selection updates this cart, my promotion list. Yeah, and now this is what I'm going to add. This is what I'm going to add. So from my CMS to another CMS or a beer file, like we said before. Here we go. I want this to be triggered using a an external scheduler. Here we go. That's the document as part of my things. I want to filter on the description. So if there was multiple objects, maybe I only want to filter if, let's say hashtag Harry is the flag which will make this object be promoted or not. I may be notified and all this. And when I'm ready, what happens is if I go back to my promotion tasks, and I go to my external task here, task URLs, you'll see that there's the flag here at the end of it. And this is where I can, I could decide to add different type of flags in different type of reports. So anyway, I hope I have answered your questions. Yes, it can be done between CMS and beer file. And well, hopefully I've answered other people how to we use external flags into a single job.
Absolutely. Larry, you're 360 famous.
Here we go. You're recorded forever in this webinar.
Yeah, not that everybody didn't know who Larry Morrow is to begin with, or they needed to know, but now they do. Awesome.
All right.
Thanks, Patrick. That was great.
Welcome. So if I go back to, yeah, go back to the presentation. Okay, here we go.
Perfect. So, thanks so much for joining this. We've got a couple of new topics coming up. We're going to start with next week. We have Pascal Galon and Gregory Botticcio going to join us to talk about the new dashboarding capabilities around web intelligence, what the latest capabilities there. There's been a lot of interest from customers, where I feel like Webi in particular, but BusinessObjects as a whole is really starting to find parity in a lot of ways with a lot of different tools that have seen as being head and shoulders above BusinessObjects in the past with regard to visualizations, with regard to creating dashboards, etc. I feel like we're really starting to see some parity from that standpoint, and we're going to dig deep into that topic and show you how creating an atmosphere where you can keep up with the releases of BusinessObject is going to be advantageous for delivering the capabilities and the things that people want, the users in the landscape. So that's going to be super cool. Rajesh from the FDA is going to join us in June to talk about how they're reducing costs, enhancing BI performance on HANA with BusinessObjects, and then finally, in the very short distance future, we've got what's new on the BusinessObjects platform side of 4.3. So that's Maheshwar Singh, who is, of course, the product manager for the BusinessObjects platform, everything not associated with Webi and the semantic layer. So this is going to be a really good month coming up. And I hope you'll join us. Hope you will, stay engaged. And I think I don't see any more questions. Patrick, I was going to say we did an amazing job, only 3 questions, but there is a 4th question that has just popped up. Patrick, what you think?
Let me have a look. Thank you, Venkat. Question is, can we create an automation task to update the password for the service account that is at various places within BusinessObjects, the SIA, adapted job server, and so on and so on? No, so this is not something we do at this point in time. The SIA, your orchestration software would have no problem to do this because it's a Windows service account. So not something that 360 will do it, but again, a very simple PowerShell command, or there's another command here which I forgot the name now. Anyway, the orchestration guys will be very happy to take care of the SIA1. The adaptive job server, which I presume you mean indeed the program object rights for the scheduling of program objects. No, this is not something we do at this point, but it's a very good question. I will definitely suggest that to our R&D team as enhancement request, because again, for those of you who are customer of 360 will know that most features of our solutions are coming from years of enhancements requests, which we have carefully considered and implemented with your feedback. Very good. Yeah, very good question. Some of it sorted by your orchestration software, others good enhancement for us in the future. So thank you for that.
Good stuff. All right. So if you're not a customer, why not?
Yeah, why not?
I'm only slightly kidding, because frankly, with a 96% renewal rate on maintenance year over year, it's not because people just love giving us money. It's because we provide a ton of value. And this was one of those. Today, I hope you got a lot of value out of the different workflows, the different areas where we can orchestrate, the different areas where we can create efficiency for you guys, reduce the amount of risk for change in the platform, all of those good things. So let us know if we can be of service to you. Patrick, as always, a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time and expertise.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. Once again, thank you everybody else for joining us today.
Yeah, have a great day, everyone. Cheers.